As a screenwriter, one of the common questions I hear is how do you choose your ideas and know which ones to commit to? And trust me, if you're anything like me, which I think most writers are, you probably have tons of ideas just bouncing around in your head. So, how do you choose which one is the right one to put energy and kind of commit to that and give all that time to? It's a great question. And so, one thing that I know I'm looking at this year is putting a list of almost every idea I've ever had, the ones I've written, the ones that I'm either developing or have sort of thought about, and putting that list together. And another thing is finding my unique voice. Early in my career, ideas used to come from everywhere. When I was in class, I don't know, just dreams, characters, just random moments. Like Lyrium was from a dream. I just had a really vivid dream and then started going, that was interesting. How do I develop a story around that? And even though I might not recommend this approach or say this is the best approach, is just kind of pulling from random spots, it does show that inspiration can strike from wherever. And as a writer, you might find ideas like this coming from everywhere, but the bigger question is which story to focus on. And I would have said, and I kind of still do this, tell the story that is burning inside of you or just bursting to get out, as many writers say. But as I've started to realize or try to focus this year of becoming a professional writer, that might not always be the best approach. If filmmaking is a business, and it absolutely is, I think writers should put themselves in that mindset. And this doesn't mean writing solely for money, but to think more strategically. I mean, investors and producers think about marketability. I think it's the same thing writers should think about is what's going to get their work made or put on screen or even streamed. For example, some of the most marketable genres are horror, action, and romance. And dramas and comedies are probably the most difficult. And this doesn't mean you should solely abandon those genres. If you have a really good story that's a comedy or drama, write it. But when you think about marketability, you've got to think about what genre is going to give you a leg up. For me, I've written some dramas and some comedies, but I know when I've started looking at my list of stories I've written, I definitely started thinking about my approach and how I might go about listing out and focusing on what stories that I should kind of write on. Beyond just writing a script, I've realized I need to focus on something a little more fundamental, my voice. And I've heard a lot of professionals say, "What's your voice?" or, "Who are you? What sets you apart? What do you have to say? What makes you unique?" And sad thing to say is up to this point, I've never really thought about that. Most of what I've done is just kind of writing a screenplay and trying to finish that because to me, that's a really difficult task in itself. But now that I've done that, I think it's important for me to go a little bit deeper and to explore what does set me apart. And more importantly, what is it that I want a reader to feel when they're reading something that I've written? Because it's one thing, as many screenwriters know, yes, we can write our action lines and show not tell and say what we see on screen and for filmmakers to put that and make that and put it on screen. But there's a difference for the reader, especially producers, investors, or directors, or anyone who reads it, to make them feel something, to make them feel part of that story or feel the characters. And that's your voice. And so for me, this year I'm committing to exploring some of those questions of what sets me apart, what makes me different. And so instead of just listing out my stories that I've either written or I'm going to write or I'm developing, is thinking a little bit different about which ones align with my voice, especially right now. What do I have to say? And I'm thinking about, in a more strategic manner, what's my 1 year plan? What's my 3 year plan? What's my 5 year plan? And instead of just writing scripts to sell scripts, what do I want my writing career to look like? If you're watching this video and feeling overwhelmed and not knowing where to start on your list of story ideas or even just finding your voice, it's okay. This was just a video meant to make you reflect and think about, well, who you are as a writer. What is your voice? What makes you unique or gives you a different perspective? And remember, don't be afraid to experiment and try different things and find a style or kind of what you're having to say. I think that's what makes it fun as being a filmmaker, not always committing, or if you don't know, playing around. And I know in future videos, I plan on talking about the strategic plans I have for that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, building out my list. I even started putting together a resume for all my writing, which I've never done, which I thought, how have I not? Um, until then, though, I think I would love to hear from you all. I would love to hear how you all choose a story or an idea and commit to it or focus on it, or even how you've come about exploring or discovering your voice, or are you struggling and maybe we can talk through it together. Because to me, in the end, this is a filmmaking community, and I hope together that we can inspire each other to keep moving forward and to keep creating awesome pieces of work that we can share and, yeah, grow together.